I had plans for karaoke with my bestie, but my 5-year-old daughter just wouldn't go to sleep. With no other choice, I took her with me and hired a couple of handsome models at the karaoke place to look after her. Halfway through our singing, the door to our private room burst open, and in walked my husband, the one from my arranged marriage, looking like he was about to catch me cheating. "Melody, you've got some nerve, bringing our daughter to meet up with other men." Before he could finish, he took in the scene. His 5-year-old daughter was happily cuddled up between two of the models. That evening, I had just finished my makeup and was about to head out, but my 5-year-old, who should have been fast asleep, was wide awake. The little munchkin refused to let the nanny put her to bed. She insisted on clinging to me, her beautiful, charming mother. "Mommy, where are you going?" I was spritzing on perfume and casually replied, "I have plans with your Auntie Nancy." After finishing, I bent down and kissed her little cheek. "Sweetie, be a good girl and go to sleep. We'll see each other tomorrow, okay?" Little Lily had adorable baby fat on her face, big round eyes, and fair skin, a truly lovable little girl. She blinked at me, her eyelashes fluttering. "Mommy, I want to go too." My first instinct was to reason with her, or maybe just pull the mom card and give her a little scare. Things like kids who don't sleep won't grow tall. I'd become a natural at those lines after becoming a mom. The little girl just stared at me with those pleading eyes, and my heart melted. I told her kids couldn't go to places like that, but she conveniently chose not to understand. Finally, with my meetup time fast approaching, I called my bestie to complain about this sweet little problem. As soon as she heard Lily's soft voice, she shrieked, "My Lily! Bring her over, Auntie wants to smother her with kisses." Thanks to a perfect blend of her parents' excellent genes, little Lily had been an adored child since she was a month old. Plenty of people had jokingly asked me and her dad if they could have her. It was rare for me to go out and have fun. After a few minutes of a standoff with my daughter, I just scooped her up and headed out. She was a bit chubby, heavier than I expected. Guess I haven't been hitting the gym hard enough lately. Little Lily was so happy in my arms, kicking her feet and then snuggling her face against my neck. She was considerate, she knew I had makeup on, so she avoided my face. Anyone could see she was a well-raised kid. Nancy was there to greet Lily, dressed in a sexy leopard print camisole, looking like a total knockout. "Oh, my sweet Lily, Auntie missed you so much." Nancy planted a big kiss on her. Nancy, a master of the dating game, but firmly against marriage. She had a soft spot for Lily, partly because of me. She said the little one reminded her of me when I was young. Little Lily hugged her Auntie Nancy and whispered to her, her voice young and innocent. I threw my hands up. "Well, I brought the kid. Who's watching her?" A kid this age needs constant supervision. Even the best behaved child will get into something. Nancy, having had her fill of baby cuddling, slowly said, "With me here, you're worried about who's going to watch her?" She really didn't look like the babysitting type. And Nancy definitely wasn't. A few minutes later, the room door opened again, and a line of young, handsome guys dressed like butlers appeared, all easily over 6 feet tall. Each one had broad shoulders, long legs, and sharp features. Nancy scanned them, then pointed twice, picking out 2 who were exceptionally good-looking. I nearly choked on my own saliva. "Nancy, have you forgotten I'm married? And in front of my kid." "I know," she said calmly. "They're not for you." She patted little Lily's head. "They're for your daughter." Nancy turned to the 2 impeccably dressed models. "Thanks for helping us out with the kid." The models froze, probably never imagining their job would involve babysitting. "Ma'am, you hired us to entertain a child?" Nancy just hummed. "Is there a problem?" "And no." Nancy patted Lily's cheek. "Sweetie, go play with these 2 uncles. Your mom and I are going to sing." Little Lily was very obedient and not shy at all, which made the 2 models, who were probably planning to work their usual charm, a bit awkward. And so, Nancy's and my night officially began. Microphone in hand, tonight we were seasoned musicians. Karaoke, humanity's key activity for relieving stress, finding joy, and incidentally, losing some weight. Once we started singing, we went all out, forgetting everything else. The flashing lights in the room were like stage lights, and holding the mic made you the star. I glanced over at my daughter occasionally and saw her having a great time with the two models, completely unfazed by our performance. During the breaks between songs, she and the models would dutifully clap and praise us. The emotional validation was almost overwhelming. Such a cute baby. The models were professional too. When they heard us screeching high notes, they'd thoughtfully cover Lily's ears. On the table were the drinks Nancy had ordered, plus an out-of-place bottle of milk. Meant for the little one. I was so into the singing, I didn't even hear my phone ringing in my bag. So when the room door was suddenly pushed open, Nancy and I didn't react at first. The backing track was still playing. I looked towards the door, frowning, wondering who was rude enough to barge into someone's private room. But when I saw who it was, I froze. A man in a sharp suit stood in the doorway, his bone structure impeccable, his deep-set eyes glinting coldly. His hands hung by his sides, his well-defined fingers drawing attention. On his left ring finger was a diamond-studded silver wedding band, a match to mine. My supposedly out-of-town, arranged marriage husband was standing there, looking like he'd caught me red-handed. "Melody, you've really outdone yourself, bringing our daughter here to meet up with strange men." Before he could finish, he'd already taken in the scene. Me and Nancy holding microphones, and little Lily, his daughter, surrounded by the so-called strange men. The two models, still diligently babysitting, looked utterly confused. The little girl's father's gaze swept over their faces, sharp as a knife. Little Lily, oblivious, suddenly saw her dad, who'd been away for days, and her eyes lit up. "Daddy." The little girl hopped off the sofa and ran to her dad, arms already outstretched. The man, who had been scowling, softened his expression in an instant and bent down to pick up his daughter. Little Lily was a master of charm and very good at expressing herself. "Daddy, I missed you so much." Alex usually came off as cold, a bit standoffish. I used to think he was quite arrogant, but after we had a child, that filter disappeared. Alex had tried to be a strict father. But he failed. Right now, though, he was still trying to sound like one. "Lily, you should be at home asleep at this hour, not out fooling around with your mother." "But I'm not sleepy, Daddy," the little girl said clearly, not forgetting to plug us. "Mommy and Auntie Nancy sing so well." Alex's gaze shifted back to me. I felt a little guilty, and Nancy beside me looked even more shifty-eyed. It was just that Alex was 2 years older than us, and he'd always been that perfect kid everyone's parents compared you to. Even though we were peers, Alex just had this intimidating aura. When I was a teenager, seeing him felt a bit like seeing a teacher. I never imagined we'd end up sleeping in the same bed and having a kid together. I'd gotten over that perfect kid intimidation factor with Alex, but that didn't mean Nancy had. The two models stood up, looking as awkward as if they were the ones caught cheating. I finally spoke to Alex. "What are you doing here?" The fact that he'd cut his business trip short was surprising enough. Alex looked at me, his face blank. "I heard you took our 5-year-old daughter to a place like this and weren't answering your phone. I came to see how wild you were getting." He was clearly being much more diplomatic now. His earlier entrance hadn't suggested such polite concern. "How did you know I was here?" Hearing that, Alex glanced in Nancy's direction. Nancy gave a sheepish smile. "I just posted on my socials." Then she gritted her teeth and quickly mumbled, "Forgot to hide it from your husband." It was perfectly normal for my husband and my best friend to have each other's contact info. Later, I saw her post. It was a video, starting with a selfie of her holding Lily, then a quick turn, and the camera showed me in a black lace tube top and jeans, with the two stunningly handsome, butler-dressed models in the background. She'd even tagged the location. Honestly, I couldn't blame Alex for storming in like that. It really did look suspicious. Now that Alex was here, his presence made the models and Nancy a bit tense, but not for long. With the kid's dad here to watch her, and me being married, both models ended up singing and dancing with Nancy. Not a single one dared to even look at me during the love song duets. Nancy, probably getting a bit tipsy, didn't care that Alex was there and was having a blast. I got tired of singing and sat down next to Alex. He opened a bottle of water and handed it to me. "Did you just get back?" I remembered my wifely duties. "Was the trip tiring? Do you want to take Lily home to rest first?" The little girl sitting next to Alex was finally showing signs of her battery running low, nodding her head like a little chick pecking at grain. "No rush, I'll wait for you," he said. Given his dramatic entrance earlier, I couldn't help but see him as a husband worried about his wife straying. Such worries were a bit unnecessary. Although our marriage had elements of convenience, Alex, now in his 30s, possessed a mature, grounded aura that came with age, yet time had been kind, leaving few marks on his face. He was at a very captivating age. After our lively karaoke session ended, the models, who had received quite a bit in tips, were exceptionally flattering to Nancy. "Come back and see us again soon, ma'am." The other model had a sense of humor. "It's been a while since I made such clean money." Realizing that might sound ambiguous, he quickly added, trying to cover it up, "Ma'am, that's not what I meant. I sell my talents, not my body." But you know, providing emotional value for customers sometimes involves a little hand-holding or light physical contact. Then the model paused and added, a bit shyly, "But if it's you, ma'am, it's okay." He looked like he'd be willing to pay her. Nancy had that kind of charm. On the way back, little Lily was already asleep in her dad's arms. Her cheek, pressed against Alex's arm, formed a cute little squish. When we were leaving, the two young models even gave the little girl a reluctant, fond look. Clearly, little Lily had won over two more strangers with her cuteness. In all my years married to Alex, the one thing I never regretted was having our daughter. The alcohol was getting to me. I leaned my head on Alex's shoulder. He turned to look at me, his tone unreadable. "You can't hold your liquor, yet you still drink." I was happy, I mumbled, rubbing my head against his shoulder. Alex didn't say anything more. Back at our house, he handed Lily to the nanny and helped me upstairs. With only one lamp on, I sat on the sofa and watched in the dim light as my husband took off his suit jacket, revealing the vest and shirt underneath. The tailored clothes outlined his physique. I'd seen the view beneath those clothes many times over the years. When we were newlyweds, I barely dared to look directly. Now, it was different. We were an old married couple. I stared openly until Alex noticed my gaze. He walked over, looking down at me. "Want me to get you a glass of water?" Alcohol really does give you courage, to some extent. I reached up and tugged his tie. Our eyes met, and I smiled at him. "Alex, could you maybe kneel down to talk to me?" After that sentence, silence fell from the air to the Miller fortune. A few seconds later, just when I thought he was going to get angry, Alex lowered himself. We were almost at eye level, but because he was kneeling, with his knees apart on the floor, I had a subtle feeling of looking down on him. It was psychologically very satisfying. Alex seemed genuinely amused and annoyed. "Melody, are you treating your husband like one of your male models?" I toyed with his tie and whispered, "No one else is here. And it's not like you don't kneel often enough." The meaning of that kneel was easily understood. Alex's eyes darkened a shade. He asked, "Want to take a shower?" I met his gaze and shook my head. "I'll wash up myself." "You can manage on your own?" Who was he looking down on? I hadn't drunk that much. Alex didn't insist. It was just that when I was taking off my makeup, looking at myself in the mirror, I felt a little reluctant to remove it. They say makeup looks its most beautiful right before you take it off. I totally agree. So when Alex walked by, he saw me admiring myself in the mirror for a long time. When I came out of the bathroom, Alex was already asleep in bed. He was lying on his side. It looked like he'd meant to wait for me. Getting back so late, after several days on a business trip, he must have been exhausted. I carefully got into bed, didn't snuggle up to him, turned off the light, and closed my eyes to sleep. But sometime during the night, in my daze, we ended up holding each other anyway. When I woke up the next day, neither of us was in our original spot. Alex was up early. When I woke, I saw him getting dressed in front of the full-length mirror. "Why are you up so early?" I mumbled. Alex glanced towards the bed. "I promised last night I'd take Lily to preschool." He was a responsible father, a man of his word. The door closed, and I was alone again in the large bedroom. But I couldn't fall back asleep. It's true that when you have nothing to do, your mind tends to wander. My marriage to Alex had lasted 6 years so far. To be honest, it wasn't initially about love or affection. My family's company had cash flow problems, and my father thought of marrying me off. I was constantly being set up on blind dates back then. There was nothing I could do. I hadn't even graduated college yet, and just the threat of cutting off my allowance was enough to make me comply. Of course, I also had a half-sister, just a year younger, who didn't face this problem. My mom passed away young. Even if she knew her husband wasn't exactly faithful, she probably never imagined that shortly after she was gone, another woman would walk in pregnant, with another daughter in tow. I was too young then. As my guardian, my father also took control of the inheritance my mom left me. What made me agree to the blind dates, besides the threat of cutting me off, was my mom's inheritance. My calculating father promised to give it to me as a dowry. A business marriage, well, it wasn't a big deal. You could always get divorced after a while. But Alex was an unexpected delight. Compared to all the other unsuitable guys, he was a clear winner. If I had to get married, even a fool would pick the best option. Back then, I overcame my awe of this golden boy and actively pursued him for a while. Alex was 24 at the time, already involved in his family's business. He was an only son, the undisputed heir to the Miller fortune, with impeccable looks, physique, education, and wealth. With all those trump cards in his external conditions, would have accepted it even if he were impotent. However, after our wedding night, Alex proved himself otherwise. It was just that when we were about to get married, my half-sister seemed like she could have bitten through steel. She had always liked to one-up me in everything since we were kids. I was grateful to Alex. After our engagement was set, the Miller Company confirmed a partnership with my family's company. My father's urgent problem was solved, and it seemed, under his wife's influence, he started evaluating which daughter marrying this son-in-law would bring the most benefit. Naturally, it wouldn't be me. I had no attachment to that family. At that time, Alex and I weren't close enough for me to make demands on him. But one day, Alex held my hand in front of my family's house, in front of all 4 of them, and stated his position. "Sir, I hope you understand, I am marrying Melody. It's not just anyone from your family. If anything improper happens again, I will reconsider our company's partnership." He took the initiative to demand my mother's inheritance and belongings from my father for me. It was just that some of the jewelry had already been worn by others, which was quite distasteful. 6 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Getting pregnant with our daughter wasn't an accident either. I had carefully planned for a child back then. A man is in his prime health for only so many years. The father's genes were excellent, and who knew if he'd pick up any bad habits in a few years? Having a healthy baby while he didn't smoke or drink excessively was more important than anything. And then came little Lily. 6 years later, Alex still hadn't picked up any bad habits. He didn't smoke and only drank moderately at business dinners or with friends. Combined with his looks and money, he was truly a prime catch. I drifted off into a groggy nap, and in my hazy state, I vaguely felt someone touching my face. I opened my eyes to see Alex. "You're back. No work today?" Alex's voice was closer. "No work. I'm taking the day off." As he spoke, his hand moved downwards, his fingertips lightly teasing my neck, which was one of my sensitive spots. The curtains were drawn, but it was definitely daylight now. A little daytime delight. Alex wasn't usually like this. He leaned in to kiss me, but I pushed him away. I haven't brushed my teeth, I said, rejecting this tempting offer. Besides, he might be off, but I had to work. To put it bluntly, even though my father basically sold me off, at least he got a good price. I, riding on Alex's coattails, had managed to get a branch company to manage. That company was barely alive when I got it. I poured my heart and soul into reviving it. During these years, I even got pregnant and had a child. There were some tough times in between, but I got through them. Can't you take the morning off and rest at home, Ms. Melody? Alex murmured, burying his face in my chest. His pajama collar was open, and I could even feel his warm breath. Alex definitely looked like he had some needs. I stroked his ear, my mind starting to wander. Alex's charm hadn't faded a bit, if anything, it had grown since he became a father. His aura had subtly changed. When we first married, he was cool and reserved, only showing moments of shyness in bed. Although I didn't mind if he had a past when we married, a somewhat inexperienced husband on our wedding night was a pleasant surprise, especially since Alex was a fast learner. After becoming a dad, his maturity was layered with a new tenderness. Nope. I sat up abruptly, firmly rejecting his advances. Alex wasn't one to insist. He watched me bustle around, washing up, doing my makeup, and changing. Before I left, I managed to give him a quick kiss. I'll be back early tonight. On the way to the office, I got a call from my assistant, who updated me on some company matters. Especially about my half-brother, Leo. My father, after seeing me revive a dying company, now wanted a piece of the pie. He didn't value it himself, but he wanted it to be a stepping stone for his precious son's resume. So, he'd placed his son, still in college, as an intern with me. He'd caused me quite a bit of trouble. After marrying Alex, I had my fair share of social obligations. Thanks to him, I was well received in the circle of wealthy wives. A man who can support a woman's rise is more attractive than just good looks. I learned early on that in the world of fame and fortune, any usable external factor could be a stepping stone for me. So what if I relied on a man? The invitation came suddenly. I had promised to be home early, but now I had to break my word. I didn't expect Nina to be there, though. My sister, just a year younger than me. She resembled her mother more, with delicate, captivating features. I don't know if I influenced her, but I heard my stepmother and father were constantly worried about her marriage prospects. Nina never seemed to find her own golden boy. Having lived under the same roof for over a decade, I could guess some of her thoughts. She didn't want her future partner to be overshadowed by my husband. Her identity had always been awkward. When my mother passed away, I was 8, and she was 7. When she was brought to our home, anyone could tell she was my father's biological daughter. That meant she was illegitimate. The more you lack something, the more you care about it. Sis, Nina said, uncharacteristically taking the initiative. Haven't seen you in a while. You doing okay? She was wearing a white slip dress, still looking pure and pretty. I nodded. Everything's fine. Nina was different from before. She used to wear her heart on her sleeve, but she'd clearly matured in recent years. She leaned in conspiratorially. How's brother-in-law doing lately? Nina had given up any ideas about Alex a long time ago. She had her pride, but not too much. Bringing him up now, I didn't think she was wishing me well. Suddenly, there was a small commotion ahead. I looked up and saw a woman in a blue cheongsam gracefully descending the stairs, holding the hand of a little boy a few years old. In front of her was the host of the party, Ms. Davis, a rather influential lady whose own family and husband's family were both quite prominent. Everyone, let me introduce you. This is Lisa, a new designer our studio is collaborating with, and this is her son. Ms. Davis owned a jewelry brand that was doing well and was somewhat well known. I didn't think much of it at first, but at that moment, I felt several pairs of eyes subtly turned towards me, with an ambiguous gaze that wasn't clearly friendly or hostile. Ms. Davis introduced her designer friend to the people around, naturally including me. Ms. Lisa walked up to me, smiling gently. Ms. Melody, hello. she didn't ignore Nina standing next to me. And Miss Nina. Compared to Mrs. Miller, I actually preferred people to use my own surname. But in different contexts, the implications of a title can vary. Nice to meet you, Ms. Lisa, I said with a smile, shaking her hand. Lisa looked down at her son and said softly, Finn, this is Auntie Melody. Say hello. The boy, who looked about Lily's age, was very well-mannered. He looked up at me and said politely, Hello, Auntie Melody. A very sweet and good-looking child. Nina chimed in with a smile, Ms. Lisa, your son is so lovely. Didn't his father come along? Finn is so handsome, his dad must be quite good-looking too, right? After that, Ms. Lisa's smile clearly faltered for a moment. She said, his father and I separated a long time ago. Nina's comment was a bit like rubbing salt in the wound. She feigned surprise. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I wonder who could be so unlucky as to not cherish a beautiful woman like you, Ms. Lisa. For me, this conversation was just a minor interlude. But as Ms. Davis continued to introduce Lisa to others, Nina whispered suggestively in my ear, Melody, don't you think that boy looks awfully familiar? I didn't answer, but Nina continued herself, lowering her voice, dropping the pretense, Melody, don't you think he looks like your husband? When I got back to our house, it was quiet, with only a light left on for me. Little Lily was clearly already asleep. She was at that energetic stage, and her toys were scattered all over the house. I opened the door to her room and peeked in. Just one glance made me instinctively hold my breath. On the whimsically decorated bed lay my little daughter, and her father. Alex still had a fairy tale book in his hand. It looked like he'd fallen asleep himself while trying to lull his daughter to sleep. That storybook was different from the usual children's books. Alex had specially commissioned someone to write it. He used to complain that popular children's books taught kids the wrong things. He didn't want his daughter to become a mermaid who traded her beautiful hair and voice for legs, nor a Snow White who needed a prince's kiss to be revived. Little Lily's father taught her that no one was worth sacrificing herself for, and that in this world, no one would love her more than her parents and herself. More than a man's love, she needed power and wealth. Although I thought such lessons were a bit premature, her dad didn't seem to think so. The sight of the father and daughter sleeping was truly heartwarming. Just Lily's existence alone made me not regret marrying Alex. I tiptoed out, closed the door, and went back to the master bedroom to wash up. But when I came out, Alex, who had been asleep in the kids' room, was propped up in our bed, waiting for me. Our eyes met. His gaze didn't change as he waited for me to walk over to him. Even after 6 years of marriage, Alex's slow, captivating changes over these years were always mesmerizing. A flurry of wet kisses, his touch growing bolder, warm breath that sent shivers down my spine, a tangle of limbs, sticky and moist, it was an intoxicating, dizzying haze. In the dim light, Alex's features looked even more captivating. My mind went blank for a while. All I knew was receiving his kisses and touches, the tears welling in the corners of my eyes wiped away by his warm fingertips. Alex used to ask if I was uncomfortable, but now we knew each other's bodies. He knew what it meant. He whispered in my ear, describing the changes in my body, his voice calm yet sending tremors through my heart. This wasn't the time to bring up other topics, but I inappropriately remembered tonight's party. Alex, would you want other children? As the words left my mouth, Alex's movements paused. He straightened up slightly, his gaze drifting down to my lower abdomen, where a faint, almost invisible scar lay. His thumb gently rubbed over it. You want to have another one? He asked. Alex's expression didn't look like there was a problem. But he was clearly considering the possibility of a second child. Lily is already 5. Adding a family member is a decision we should discuss with her, Alex said. We can talk about this later, he murmured, lowering his head. Don't get distracted now. Alex had been abstinent for over a week due to his busy work schedule, and tonight, he was making up for lost time. At the company, I had just handed a big project to Leo, wanting to see what he could make of it. So, the next day, I decided to take it easy and stay home. Unexpectedly, Alex also didn't go to work. I woke up at 10, vaguely remembering that around 7, little Lily had run to my bedside before leaving for school and enthusiastically given her sleeping mother a good morning kiss. Alex was standing by the French windows, looking at something outside. But he was wearing a black tank top, and the fabric clung to his very eye-catching physique. His waist was narrower than his shoulders, but very strong. Scenes from last night replayed in my mind. I even felt a little weak in the knees, and a tingly, pleasant sensation welled up inside me. Alex turned around at that moment. Awake? He walked over, sat on the edge of the bed, and naturally rested his palm on my leg. Any plans for today? Alex asked. If not, get up, have something to eat, and maybe we can go shopping? Shopping. The last time I remembered going shopping with Alex was probably 3 months ago, and we'd taken our daughter with us then. It was more of a family outing. Isn't your company busy? I considered myself a rather understanding wife. You can go to work, you don't have to keep me company. Alex took my hand, casually playing with my fingers, even twirling the wedding ring on my ring finger. He looked down at me. Why do you think I'm keeping you company? Alex leisurely parsed my words. The word accompany has a sense of obligation. But I'm inviting you on a date. Being with you brings me pleasure too. He made his meaning clear. A very heart-fluttering way to put it. So, I gladly accepted. After having a child, couple time definitely decreases, but children bring a different kind of happiness. You win some, you lose some, that's the way of the world. Moments like this, out on a date with Alex, were rare. I thought I probably looked pretty cool swiping the card. Even though it was his card. Well, Alex was better at being born rich. He was indeed much wealthier than I was. We happened to be in a luxury store that had new bags. They looked nice. I picked one up to try it and turned to Alex. Which color do you think looks better? Alex studied them for a moment, then couldn't pick. Just buy them all. They look good. Suddenly, a woman's voice called out from nearby, Alex? I followed the sound and saw a gentle face. It was familiar, Lisa, whom I had just met last night. Ms. Melody is here too. Her outfit today was noticeably more vibrant than last night's. She was dressed in very soft, pink colors. Ms. Lisa. She greeted me first, and I responded politely. Alex turned to me. You two know each other too? Too. Lisa chuckled. We met last night. She glanced at the bag in my hand. Ms. Melody has good taste. I quite like this bag too. Would you mind if we had the same one? The dynamic between women can be very subtle. If Nancy had said she wanted the same thing as me, I wouldn't care if she just took mine. Or if someone on the street asked about a matching item, I might even be pleased. But right now, there was a peculiar taste to it. Do as you please. I didn't change my mind about buying it because of this chance encounter. I looked at Alex, he seemed normal. Just as I was about to pay, I faintly heard the saleswoman's apologetic voice from behind me, I'm sorry, ma'am, but the last brown one of this style was just purchased by that lady. My card was already out. Footsteps approached from behind, and Lisa called out to us, Alex, Ms. Melody. I really like the brown one, and it's the last one. Could I please ask you to let me have it? She asked politely. As compensation, how about I buy the other bag for Ms. Melody? The bag wasn't outrageously expensive, not to the point where I couldn't part with it. But that didn't mean I'd just give it away. I was silent for a few seconds, then I saw Lisa's eyes turn to Alex. Sorry, Ms. Lisa, I really like this bag too. I can't let you have it. The next second, I signaled the saleswoman to swipe my card. Both bags were mine. Let's go. I took Alex's arm and walked out under Lisa's gaze. After walking a fair distance, I stopped and looked at Alex, suddenly saying, I'm tired of shopping. Alex didn't seem to notice anything amiss. He said, then let's go eat. Meeting Lisa while shopping that day was just a small incident. Until that evening, when I saw her social media post. We had added each other on socials the night before, she initiated it, and I had contact info for most people at the party, so one more didn't matter. Lisa's post was a photo of herself in today's outfit, with a bag on the table. It was the last brown one I had bought today. Judging by the likes and comments, we had quite a few mutual friends. Someone in the comments asked which store still had this bag. Lisa's reply was, it was a gift from a friend. Alex was in the study handling business. Little Lily was chattering beside him about her day at preschool, eventually talking herself to sleep. Such a cute baby, lulling herself to sleep. I carried her to bed, tucked her in carefully, and bent down to kiss her little cheek before going out. Alex worked late. I was tired from a day of shopping and fell asleep before he came to bed. When I woke up the next day, the spot beside me was empty. I asked, and Alex had gone to the company early in the morning. Downstairs, little Lily was still eating breakfast. "Mommy, can you take me to preschool today?" My daughter asked, looking at me with pleading eyes. "Sure." Little Lily sometimes came home and relayed compliments her classmates had given about her dad and me. Of course, most of her classmates came from well-off families, and their parents were often good-looking too. The car stopped in front of the preschool. I held Lily's hand as we walked to the entrance, just about to hand her over to the teacher. I looked up and saw Lisa and her son. "Mommy, that's the new classmate in our class," my daughter's soft voice said. "Ms. Melody, you're dropping off your child too?" Lisa saw me. My smile was faint. What a coincidence. "Yes, I just moved back to the country recently. I heard this preschool is good, so I enrolled my son." "I didn't expect your daughter to be here too." She looked at my daughter and said softly, "What a beautiful little girl. What's her name?" Before I could answer, her son chimed in, "Mommy, this is Lily from my class." I patted my daughter's head. "Lily, this is Auntie Grace." Little Lily looked up and politely said, "Auntie Grace." The two children went into the preschool with their teacher. Lisa then remarked, "The two kids look quite like a brother and sister standing together." But right after saying it, she laughed and explained, "I mean, Finn is a few months older than Lily. Don't misunderstand." One afternoon, Nancy called me in a panic. "Melody, what's this I hear about your husband having an illegitimate son? Where did you hear that? Hey, if it's reached me, it's probably all over town. People just aren't saying it to your face." She sounded furious. "That Alex. He looks so proper, but he's pulling this pre-marriage secret child stunt. That Lisa, she's from the Lisa family of Prosperity Corp. She's the granddaughter of the big boss there. Her mom died young, and she was later taken back and had her name changed. She used to hang out with Alex and his crowd. Alex and I were only nodding acquaintances before, so I didn't know his entire social circle inside out. I didn't care how many exes he had, but an illegitimate child was a no-go. But I wouldn't condemn my husband based on baseless rumors." Lisa's social media kept updating. This time, the photo included a man's hand. The lighting was dim, but the watch on that hand. Alex had one just like it. It was an old one, a collector's item, hard to find now. Alex liked that watch and wore it sometimes. Nina had been quite idle lately, enjoying sending me snide remarks. My father probably listened to her and specifically called to tell me to keep a tight leash on my husband. And to urge me to have a second child. Or, more bluntly, to have a son. Alex came home very late that night. I knew I needed to find time to talk to him, but before that, I also had to consider all possible scenarios. I was used to thinking about the worst-case outcome. But before, I only had to consider myself. Now, I had to consider my daughter. Before I could have an open talk with Alex, the weekend arrived, and we took Lily to his parents' place for dinner. When Alex's mother, Mrs. Miller, saw Lily, her face lit up. "Oh, Grandma's little sweetheart, let Grandma hold you." Lily had been a charmer for a long time, she was deeply loved by her grandparents. Mrs. Miller was well preserved, looking only to be in her 40s. When we got to the restaurant, my father-in-law slowly returned with his fishing gear. After semi-retiring, Mr. Miller's life was exceptionally leisurely. The Miller family didn't have strict rules about not talking during meals. At the table, my mother-in-law looked at me and her son for a long moment before finally speaking. "Alex, Melody, when are you planning to have another child?" The topic of having more children wasn't new at this dinner table. Alex and I had Lily a few months after we got married. Before Lily turned 3, my in-laws hadn't mentioned a second child. They brought it up twice in the following year, but Alex had deflected it. He neither said yes nor no to having another. But today, they seemed quite serious. Little Lily sat between her grandparents, being fed from both sides, though she could already eat by herself. The doting of grandparental affection was obvious. While waiting for her son and daughter-in-law to answer, Mrs. Miller didn't forget to look down and ask her granddaughter, "Lily, do you want a little brother or sister?" "Mom," Alex finally spoke, "why are you asking Lily? What does she know about what having a younger sibling means?" Mrs. Miller said, "What could it mean? She's a little girl. Having a sibling means they can support each other, grow up together without being lonely, and a brother can protect his older sister." Alex was silent for a moment, then continued, "So, what you two mean is, you want Melody and me to have a son, to protect Lily?" This remark seemed to amuse Alex. He chuckled. "If Lily is an only child, then all of Melody's and my assets will eventually belong to her, including the inheritance rights to the company," Alex said calmly. "If we have a son for her, as you say, does that mean we're defaulting to leaving the company's inheritance rights and most of the assets to her brother?" "Dad, Mom, is this what you call protection?" His words left his own mother somewhat speechless. "Alex," my father-in-law spoke up, "it's not calculated like that between siblings. Having another child just means another option for an heir. How can you be sure Lily will have the capability? What if she doesn't want to manage the company later on? If she doesn't want to manage it, will her younger sibling necessarily want to?" Alex said gravely, "I will teach her how to manage the company. If she doesn't want to later, she can hire someone to manage it. Whether or not to have another child is between Melody and me. But if it's about giving Lily a companion, it's unnecessary," Alex said, coolly turning their argument back on his parents. "After all, as an only child for 30 years, I haven't felt particularly lonely. Of course, if you two want to try for a second child yourselves, I have no objection." My father-in-law looked like he really wanted to scold his son but probably held back because his granddaughter was present. After the meal, Lily was taken to the yard to play by the nanny. My in-laws' gazes swept over my face, then to their son. After a moment's hesitation, Mrs. Miller spoke first. "Lately, some rumors have reached us, and we want to talk to you both about them." I had a feeling and glanced at Alex. The next second, Mrs. Miller looked at her son. "Alex, your father and I heard you have an illegitimate child from before your marriage." Before he could discern if his mother was joking, Mrs. Miller looked at me. "Melody, have you heard about this?" I lowered my eyes slightly. "There have been some rumors. I haven't had a chance to verify their truthfulness yet." Alex turned and looked at me. "Melody, we will not support anyone who tries to destroy your marriage with a child," my in-laws stated their position clearly. "But if the child is really Alex's, we can't ignore it either. Can you understand that?" Similar disputes were not uncommon in wealthy families. Alex's parents were very rational. Their stance was understandable from their perspective. And from my perspective, at most, I could blame my husband for being careless before marriage. Alex listened for a while and finally understood the whole story about him supposedly having an illegitimate child. He thought for a moment, then gave his answer, "Not mine." "If it's not yours, why are there such rumors?" Alex's father asked. "I've seen a photo of the child. He looks a lot like you when you were little," his mother said, hesitating. She handed him her phone, which displayed a photo. "Lisa's son, Finn." Alex stared at the photo for a long time and said, "I probably have a photo of myself dressed similarly from when I was a kid." If he were my son, she could just show up and demand a paternity test. What's the point of deliberately dressing him like me as a child? Besides, Alex's tone had a calm sort of craziness. I never slept with her. If this child is really related to me, Dad, shouldn't you perhaps re-examine your own past? Unsurprisingly, he got yelled at. His dad picked up a nearby teacup and threw it at him. I followed Alex to the backyard. Little Lily was playing happily by herself in the yard. So, is this why I've been getting the cold shoulder lately? Alex's voice came from behind me. You haven't wanted to talk to me much these past 2 days, no kisses, no hugs. I didn't say anything, so he took it as a yes. Anyone else, fine. He stepped closer, leaning down to whisper in my ear, his voice soft. But you know who my first time was with, don't you? I looked up at him for a long moment, then squeezed out, who knows if you were just pretending. He looked like he'd been unjustly accused, and a frustrated laugh escaped him. Really, Melody? You're something else. Any other suspicions? Spit them all out at once, so you don't overthink things. Since Alex said so, I didn't hold back. A few minutes later, he was scrolling through my phone, which was open to Lisa's social media feed. This hand is indeed mine, he said. But the next second, he took out his own phone and dialed a number. After a few rings, one of his friends answered, Yo, Mr. Big Shot Alex, what can I do for you? Last Thursday night, what was I doing? Huh? The person on the other end was caught off guard. Is this really you? However, his friend obliged and recalled, last Thursday? Wasn't that when William organized a get-together? Said we should hang out. You refused to have more than a couple of drinks, acting like I was trying to poison you. Do you remember who else was there? William set it up. Me, you, Evan and his fiancée, oh, and Gary, Lisa and his cousin Lisa. What's up with you? Lost a game of truth or dare? Or did your wife catch you on the prowl, ha ha ha? After laughing and noticing Alex wasn't saying anything, the friend cautiously asked, Did she really catch you? Alex said, It's nothing. Then he hung up. He turned to me. We did meet that day, but there were other people. As for why her son coincidentally transferred to this preschool, I don't know, Alex said, pausing. My relationship with her isn't that close. That statement was a bit of a stretch. Counting the time, they had known each other for at least a dozen years. Lisa and I were on good terms between high school graduation and freshman year of college. You could say it was ambiguous. But I studied abroad for college, and she was in the country. She probably had other boyfriends during that time. We didn't get together after I returned, and it's even more impossible now. Alex briefly explained his past with Lisa. Have I done anything wrong lately to make you doubt your husband's loyalty? Alex asked. I was speechless. Before I could say anything, Alex continued, Melody, are you, by any chance, jealous? Jealous? That sounded a bit dramatic. After all, when I married Alex, it was considered me marrying up. I had always tried to maintain a rational mindset towards this marriage. People's hearts are the easiest things to change. I didn't know if Alex would be like my father, wanting to have his cake and eat it too, a wife at home and mistresses outside. But for these 6 years, Alex had behaved too well. Falling for him was an easy thing to do. The conflict between staying rational and an irresistible urge to fall deeper. I'm not, I denied it instinctively. Alex, however, stared straight at my face, then sighed softly after a moment. Next time something like this happens, just tell me directly. There's nothing that can't be discussed between a husband and wife. There still were some things. I opened my mouth, about to say something, when little Lily ran over like a cannonball, hugged my leg, and grinned so wide her eyes crinkled. Mommy, Daddy. She had run so much that the little pigtails on her head were messy, and she was sweaty. Alex had done her hair. Of course, he wasn't a pro at styling his daughter's hair from the start. Lily, wipe your sweat, Alex said, squatting down to wipe her forehead. Daddy, there are little bees in Grandpa's garden. she announced, sharing her groundbreaking discovery. Really? Our Lily noticed that? That's amazing, Alex smiled at his daughter. But be careful, these stings hurt a lot. After the weekend, Alex, playing the victim of a false accusation, managed to get quite a few favors from me. For a couple with a child, even in a big house, private time was sometimes hard to come by. So sometimes, we'd play hide and seek with our child. Little Lily was past the age of crying her eyes out if she couldn't find her parents for a short while, especially when she knew they were playing hide and seek with her. She would only become more determined. While our daughter was happily searching for us all over the house, I was being kissed by Alex, pressed against his desk in his study. In a gap between kisses, I accused him, "You're breaking the rules. Didn't you tell Lily the study was off limits for hiding?" "She doesn't need to know," Alex said, busy with his own agenda. "If we don't tire her out a bit, she'll be up all night again." We had agreed on just kissing, but our breathing grew heavier. Little Lily's footsteps pattered past the door. I felt an inexplicable nervousness and tried to push Alex away, but he held me even tighter. Alex's study was somewhat sparse, not many things, and most of them were work-related. But when he took something out of his pocket, I froze. "I'll be quick," he coaxed softly. That subtle thrill of a clandestine affair strangely emerged between us, a legally married couple. Unbearable. I was still worried about our daughter outside, yet the man in front of me constantly pulled my attention back. Finally, while I was still recovering in his chair, Alex, fully dressed, went out to be caught by his daughter, who was engrossed in playing hide and seek. I hid until the very end, changing locations before being found. Little Lily asked, "Mommy, where were you hiding?" "I looked for you for a long, long time." It seemed the matter concerning Alex and Lisa was over. The illegitimate child issue too. If it were really his, he wouldn't have needed to deny it in front of his own parents. But I didn't expect there would be a follow-up to this. Not long after, one evening, Nancy barged into my house. "Sweetie. My Melody. Big news." I was looking at the company's recent financial reports when she arrived. "What's wrong? Coming over so late?" Nancy looked left and right. "Is your husband home?" "Not back yet." The next second, Nancy shoved her phone in my face. "Remember how they said Lisa's son was your husband's illegitimate child?" Her eyes were gleaming with the excitement of someone who'd just gotten major gossip. Plot twist. The kid isn't your husband's. "Oh. You know those guys your husband hangs out with? William, from the Way family? It's his." This revelation stunned me. William. He was indeed one of Alex's childhood friends, a year older than him. But he had married early, even before Alex and I did, to a young woman from a comparable family. Their son was just 2 months older than Lily. We had seen them many times. Nancy was great at summarizing, laying out the story in a few words. It was a typical tale of young lovers having a secret affair for years. The man's family, however, had an arranged marriage for him with someone from a better family, with deeper business ties. The couple broke up unhappily, and she left pregnant. Now she was back, trying to claim something for her son. The man had tacitly acknowledged the relationship, buying her a house and a car, and even enrolling his illegitimate son in the same preschool as his legitimate child. Dragging Alex into it was more like using his name as a cover. My family background couldn't compare to the powerful backing of William's wife's family, so Lisa wouldn't easily trouble Alex or, say, demand a divorce. As long as Lisa didn't explicitly name the father, the rumors would persist. William helping to take care of the child might even seem reasonable. Now I hear they're going through a messy divorce. "This drama is pretty intense, huh?" Nancy remarked. "Your husband's choice of friends isn't great either, trying to pin the blame on him." I remembered the last time I saw William's wife, she had even offered me a few words of comfort. My feelings were quite complicated. However, just as Nancy was talking about him, Alex arrived. His car pulled up, and soon he was inside. He came face to face with Nancy. Nancy's here? He said calmly. Staying over tonight? Nancy had stayed over before, when she was going through a breakup. She stayed for a few days, and I slept with her. Alex had been a little put out. No, I just came to say something, and I'm done. Nancy fled faster than anyone. It's getting late, I'll head back. Alex sat down next to me, slowly unbuttoning his cuffs. I turned and looked at him expectantly. William's situation, did you know? I knew. I paused. Lisa's son. How was it discovered? Alex said, I told them. I didn't expect him to be behind this. How did you know? Alex turned to look at me, his eyes lowered, and squeezed my hand. Lisa wouldn't involve her son with me for no reason. She can't afford to offend me. The Lisa family had arguments over her unmarried pregnancy, and they even sounded me out before, probably believing the rumors that it was my child. He paused. It's easy to check. Lily's preschool isn't that easy to get into. Just see who handled the enrollment, and all I had to do was inform his wife. She'd find the evidence herself. Alex's tone was so calm. I cautiously asked, aren't you guys pretty good friends? If he truly considered me a friend, he wouldn't have tried to pin this kind of family-wrecking blame on me, Alex said. Besides, I get along quite well with his wife too. Helping either of them is still helping someone. William's wife's family company had a major ongoing project with Alex's family business, and they had all known each other for years. Their relationship was indeed good. Alex lost a friend he had grown up with. He didn't say it, but he was clearly not in a good mood recently. Naturally, I tried to comfort him. However, the branch company I managed also ran into some trouble. Previously, Leo had complained that I only gave him menial tasks. Through our shared father, he put pressure on me and eventually got a project from me, with him as the person in charge. But Leo oversimplified the business, and his father overestimated his son. For the project Leo was in charge of, he chose an unreliable wholesaler and bought a batch of low-quality raw materials at what seemed like a bargain price. My father condescended to call me, the gist being that I should take responsibility for this and fix it. Dad, your son made this mess, and you want me to take the fall? Melody, that's your brother. The man on the other end of the line was, as always, fond of emotional blackmail. He's only 20. You gave him such a big project, weren't you deliberately trying to see him fail? Interesting. Initially, they complained that I marginalized Leo. Now that things went wrong, it was my fault. Dad, I wasn't much older than him when I took over the branch company. I could manage this company, but he can't even tell a good supplier from a bad one. A few words of praise and he gets carried away. It just shows how useless he is. You should be careful, the family fortune might be squandered by him. Melody, you dare talk to your father like that now? There was nothing I didn't dare. But one thing was true, my father, well, he was still the head of the Sue family, and he had plenty of ways to make me unhappy. In the end, this matter still fell on my shoulders because I was the head of this company. Mismanagement of personnel was also my responsibility. So, I took the opportunity to resign and take the blame. I heard Nina immediately took my place. But soon, many mid to senior level employees from the branch company resigned one after another. On the other hand, I had broken free from the family and also poached those people. I had been in a great mood lately. I went out with a few friends and stayed out quite late. By the time it ended, I was a bit unsteady on my feet from drinking, but very happy. Alex came to pick me up with our daughter. The driver had an MPV. Lily's car seat was in the middle row. After Alex buckled her in, he came to the back to look at me. In my hazy state, Alex's handsome face swam before my eyes. I couldn't resist reaching out to touch it. Alex, can I have a kiss? Alex paused for a moment, then said softly, kisses at home. Little Lily turned around from the front and questioned sternly, Daddy, why don't you kiss Mommy? She then added eagerly, Mommy, if Daddy won't kiss you, I will. Alex was speechless. He said to his daughter, "Lily, turn back around and cover your eyes." The partition between the front and back had been raised long ago. Currently, little Lily was the only adorable third wheel in this space. She obediently turned around and covered her eyes. Alex leaned down and lightly touched my lips, his voice laced with a smile. "How much did you drink tonight?" I held up a hand, indicating, "Just a little." "You can't hold your liquor, yet you still drink with those hard-drinking friends of yours." He pecked my lips again. "So drunk, do you even recognize your husband and daughter?" Of course, I did. I wanted to argue, but Alex kissed me more deeply then, and I forgot what I was going to say. Alex had me lie with my head on his lap, his jacket draped over me. He was looking at something on his phone with one hand, while the other rested on my neck, his thumb gently stroking my chin. However, as the car moved, he must have gotten distracted, forgetting the situation, forgetting our daughter was in the front seat. His fingertips traced down my collar, slipping inside. He realized his mistake and pulled his hand out. He looked down and met my eyes, which were brimming with a smile, my lips curved upwards. Alex, uncharacteristically childish, reached up to cover my mouth. But covering my mouth only left our eyes to meet. He glanced towards the front, saw our daughter obediently looking out the window, then leaned down and kissed my eyes. The drunkenness from that night lingered, later, in the bathroom. Through hazy eyes, I looked at my husband. In a moment of infatuation, I blurted out, "Alex, I really like you." He looked down at my face. Drunk talk or heartfelt words? I pressed closer to him and whispered, "You don't believe me?" He responded, "Say it a few more times, maybe then I'll believe you." His words said he didn't believe me, but after every confession, I could feel his reaction. Before falling asleep, I heard someone whisper in my ear, "I love you too." Alex's epilogue. Melody always thought our connection came from a blind date. That's not entirely accurate. The person who was supposed to be at that blind date table back then was someone else. I forget who, not an important person. I remember someone mentioning it at a private gathering, their words dripping with disdain for Melody's family background, feeling she wasn't good enough for them. They planned to stand her up at the blind date, make her wait, so she'd get the message. He mentioned the restaurant. The speaker was careless, but the listener, me, paid attention. Somehow, I remembered the restaurant's name. That day, I happened to be passing by and saw her through the transparent wall. So, someone else didn't go to that blind date. I did. Of course, I knew Melody. But our first real meeting probably traced back to her mother's funeral. That year, she was just a pitiful little thing, her eyes red from crying. In the many years that followed, she remained an impression. My initial intention was to tell her she didn't need to wait any longer. But when we were face to face, I sat down. And then, I thought getting married sooner rather than later wasn't a bad idea. Melody's eyes could speak, they could stare at you until your soul was captivated. She was very proactive at first. It was clear I was the most satisfactory among her many blind dates. Her pursuit methods weren't very sophisticated, but that didn't matter. I was falling for her a little. Her situation at home wasn't great. People online say pitying a man is the start of misfortune. Conversely, pitying a woman is the start of happiness. Sure enough, I soon had both a wife and a daughter. Little Lily is like her mother, cute, adorable, and a little charmer. Melody and I didn't have a second child. But when Lily was 6, she found a stray white kitten next to a trash can outside, brought it home, and announced she was a mom. Melody and I simultaneously became a grandpa and grandma.